Welcome back to the Crime Decoder, where we uncover the stories behind some of the most compelling and tragic true crime cases. Today, we're diving deep into the devastating story of Meng Mi Lang, a 25-year-old international student known as Michelle in Australia. Her journey from China to Sydney was one of courage and ambition, but it ended in unimaginable horror in 2016. Join us as we explore Michelle's life, the chilling events leading to her death, and the shocking revelations that followed. This is a story of trust betrayed, a family shattered, and a community left searching for answers. Meng Mi Lang, who went by Michelle in Australia, was born in Chengdu, China, and was the only child of her devoted mother, May. After the tragic loss of her father in 2008, Michelle and May became inseparable. May described her daughter as a beacon of compassion, a young woman who felt deeply for others and always put their needs before her own. No matter how much stress or sadness she carried herself, Michelle was the kind of person who lit up a room, always ready to lend a supportive ear or a helping hand. In 2011, at just 20 years old, Michelle made a life-changing decision. She would move to Australia to pursue higher education. It was a bold step, leaving behind everything familiar to chase her dreams thousands of miles away. Her mother, though anxious about her only child venturing so far, was filled with pride at Michelle's determination to step out of her comfort zone. May poured every penny she had into making this opportunity possible, knowing her daughter had the potential to achieve greatness. Michelle, in turn, was deeply grateful and committed to making her mother proud. Upon arriving in Australia, Michelle settled in Campsie, a vibrant suburb in Sydney, New South Wales, where she lived with her aunt, her uncle Derek Barrett, and their daughter, her cousin. Having family nearby provided a sense of security as she adjusted to life in a new country. Michelle quickly found her footing, sending whatever money she could spare back to her mother in China. She built a close circle of friends, immersed herself in her studies, and embraced her new home. By 2016, she had completed a business degree at the University of Technology, Sydney, and was furthering her education at the Sydney Institute of Interpreting and Translation. At 25, Michelle was thriving, with a bright future ahead. April 21, 2016, was a warm Thursday in Sydney. Michelle spent the afternoon catching up with friends near her university campus. She was her usual cheerful self, laughing and chatting as they said their goodbyes. She mentioned she was heading to Pitt Street Mall, a bustling shopping center in downtown Sydney, to do some shopping. Friends waved her off as she boarded a bus outside the University of Technology, unaware that this would be the last time they'd see her. Security footage from Pitt Street Mall showed Michelle browsing stores alone, dressed in jeans, a long-sleeved gray top, and carrying a red shoulder bag. She appeared relaxed, stopping to buy a juice at one point. There was no indication of distress or anyone following her. Around 4 p.m., she boarded a train at St. James Station, arriving at Campsie Station by 4:30 p.m. to return to her apartment. Michelle was active on her phone, texting friends and posting on social media. But after the late afternoon, all communication stopped. Her phone went unanswered, her social media went silent, and she didn't appear on campus the next day. Her friends grew uneasy, but with no immediate answers, days passed without action. It wasn't until April 25th, for days after Michelle was last seen, that her aunt returned from a weekend trip and realized something was terribly wrong. Alarmed that Michelle had seemingly vanished, her aunt and uncle Derek went straight to the Campsie police station to file a missing persons report. According to friends, Michelle had been her normal self that day. No strange behavior, no hints of trouble. The CCTV footage confirmed she was alone in the mall, showing no signs of being followed or upset. Concern for Michelle spread. A separate and chilling story emerged 60 miles away on the New South Wales Central Coast. Snapper Point, a picturesque but dangerous coastal spot, is known for its blowhole, surrounded by slippery rocks and jagged cliffs. On the morning of April 24, 2016, a tourist walking near the blowhole spotted a body floating face down in the water. Initially mistaking it for a swimmer, they quickly realized the person wasn't moving. Emergency services were called, and at 10:30 a.m., a paramedic was lowered by helicopter to retrieve the body. The discovery was gruesome. The body was that of a young woman, completely naked, with nearly 40 stab wounds covering her body. The fatal wound was a deep cut to her throat. and defensive injuries suggested she had fought desperately against her attacker. The heavy seas that day showed no evidence of causing her injuries, leading police to conclude she was deliberately placed in the water at the blowhole rather than washing up from elsewhere. The New South Wales Homicide Squad described the victim as an Asian woman, aged 20 to 35, with a medium build and shoulder-length dark hair. With no identifying marks, tattoos, or jewelry, they released a computer-generated image, referring to her as the Snapper Point Blowhole Jane Doe. As news of the unidentified woman spread, online communities and Michelle's friends began to suspect a heartbreaking link. Social media buzzed with posts sharing Michelle's photo alongside the police description. DNA testing soon confirmed the worst. The body at Snapper Point was Michelle Lang. The vibrant, hard-working student who had come to Australia to build a better life was gone. Her life ended in a brutal and violent act. The investigation moved quickly. Police interviewed Michelle's family, friends, and classmates, combed through her apartment, analyzed technological evidence, including phone data and CCTV. A critical clue emerged: a car captured on camera heading toward the national park near Snapper Point 4 hours before Michelle's body was found. That car belonged to Derek Barrett, Michelle's uncle, the same man who had reported her missing. Derek Barrett, 27, had married Michelle's aunt a few years earlier. Little was publicly known about him, except that he had previously worked in IT and had been unemployed for some time. Investigators searched his phone and uncovered disturbing evidence. Photos of Michelle bound and gagged on her bed, her face etched with fear. The images were haunting, a stark contrast to the caring uncle Derek had portrayed himself to be. Using CCTV, phone data, and witness statements, police reconstructed the timeline. Michelle was likely attacked by Derek shortly after arriving home on April 21st. With the house empty, he restrained her in her bedroom and assaulted her, driven by a sexual motive. At some point, Michelle's cousin returned home, completely unaware of the horror unfolding nearby. Police determined that Derek kept Michelle alive for an unknown period before killing her sometime between 4:45 p.m. on April 21st and 10:30 a.m. on April 24th. On the morning of April 24th, he wrapped her body in plastic, drove to Snapper Point, stopping casually to buy snacks, and threw her body into the blowhole, a place Michelle had once visited and shared on Instagram during happier times. Derek was charged with murder and 27 additional offenses, including detaining a person for advantage, indecent assault, and filming Michelle for sexual gratification. He initially pleaded not guilty, claiming he had no memory of the events due to methamphetamine and synthetic cannabis use. A forensic psychologist, Dr. F., dismissed these claims, noting that Derek's alleged amnesia seemed fabricated to avoid responsibility. The psychologist pointed out that Derek's physical condition, an obese man, did not align with typical methamphetamine addiction, and his lack of empathy was telling. The court learned that Derek had filmed Michelle in compromising situations, actions described as highly suggestive of sexual deviance. In December 2017, Derek pleaded guilty to murder and 21 related charges. Justice Helen Wilson called the crime despicable, marked by extreme brutality and great wickedness. She described Derek as a socially inadequate man driven by sexual perversion and sadism, who betrayed the trust of a young woman in a place that should have been safe. Derek was sentenced to 46 years in prison, with a non-parole period of 34 years, meaning he could be in his 70s before any chance of release. The case took an even darker turn in November 2019, when an elderly woman with dementia, living a few miles from Derek's former home, was found holding a heavy-duty weatherproof USB drive. She couldn't explain how she got it, thinking it was a toy. When her daughter plugged it into a computer, she was horrified by what she saw. 9 videos and 13 photos documenting Derek's horrific assault on Michelle. The footage showed him raping and torturing her while she was bound. Her hands so tightly restrained they were swollen and purple. In one video, Derek cut the tape with a hunting knife, retied her, and chillingly said, "Now, where were we?" before continuing his attack. Other files revealed he had secretly filmed Michelle and his stepdaughter over time, including while they showered or slept, sometimes touching himself as he watched. Police matched some of the photos to files Derek had deleted from his phone days before his arrest in an attempt to cover his tracks. The origin of the USB remained a mystery, as the elderly woman had no known connection to Derek. The discovery led to 17 new charges, including multiple counts of aggravated sexual assault and indecent assault. Derek pleaded guilty, but because the evidence was uncovered after his 2017 sentencing, the court couldn't impose a new separate sentence. Instead, the judge added 2 years to his non-parole period, extending it to 2052. She noted that had the full extent of his crimes been known in 2017, Derek would likely have received a life sentence. Michelle's mother, May, was shattered by the loss of her only child. The discovery of the USB deepened her pain, leading to the death of her own mother from grief shortly after. May spoke of her anguish. "When I learned how my daughter was degradingly raped and agonizingly tortured, a wave of faint washed over me. We still cannot accept that she has left us. My whole life is shattered." Michelle's aunt, who spent much of her time working in Wollongong, was unaware of her husband's actions and was consumed by guilt. The Australian Chinese community rallied around the family, raising funds to cover funeral costs and support May through her grief. Michelle Lang was a hardworking, compassionate young woman who left her home in China to pursue a better future. She trusted the family she lived with and worked tirelessly to support her mother. Her life was stolen in a place that should have been a sanctuary, by someone she should have been able to rely on. Her story is a stark reminder of the dangers that can hide behind closed doors and the devastating impact of betrayal. On the Crime Decoder, we share these stories to honor victims like Michelle and raise awareness. Subscribe to our channel for more in-depth true crime stories, and let us know in the comments how Michelle's story has affected you. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, stay safe.